Hello everybody, it's Tim here again, here with another movie review. I was going to do the third Cloverfield film right about now, Cloverfield Paradox, but I figured I recently just watched another movie, so I figured I really wanted to kind of review this one. It's been out for a while now, but I've never actually done a review for it. It's Midsommar, directed by Ari Aster, I think is how you say his name, who also directed Hereditary, which is another movie I reviewed. Personally, in terms of my views on this director, is I do think I think his films are a bit overrated critically. Like Midsommar and Hereditary both have like really good critical reviews, and I think it's more about just his directing style and his directing capabilities than it is the actual films. I think it's a little bit more about that than it is the actual films. Like Hereditary, I liked Hereditary. If you watch my review for it, I give it a solid 3 out of 4. I think it's a good film. I think it's really well directed, but my big problem with that film was just the ending, like the climax. You get all this kind of unique like stuff and like shots and everything in the movie, and then when you get to the ending, it just turns out to be any other devil cult film where it's just you just find out the twist is just that it's a cult wanting to get this demon to enter this boy's body. I mean, that's it. There's not really any kind of like mystery to it or anything. They just want this demon to have a body to inhabit. So that's pretty much it. That kind of disappointed me because for the whole majority of the movie, it felt more original to me than that. And to just fall back on that kind of just like standard crutch. Maybe I was asking too much of the movie. I don't know, but it was so hyped up before I watched it that when I got to the ending, I was kind of disappointed. It was just the same old shit I've seen a million times. Ending wise, Midsommar. Now this movie does feel a little bit more fresh to me than Hereditary, but it's kind of in the same vein as Hereditary. Once again, it's a cult, except this time it's they say it's like a commune, but when you get there, you kind of start getting into it. You're watching it as a viewer, you get like the uneasy feeling that it's like a cult. You got this chick who's the star of the movie named Danny, character's name, and the actress does a good job, and she's the most interesting character. She has a boyfriend in here who's pretty much a dick for most of the movie. And just not very understanding. Like her sister commits suicide and kills her family at the same time using carbon monoxide. And I don't think you ever really get a reason why her sister was so depressed to kill herself and her own parents. I don't think they ever really give a reason in the movie for that. If they did, I missed it. But I thought that was a little weak. And once you get into like the cult and everything, that's when the movie like kind of picks up. Warning: this is a very slow-paced film. It's more of like a psychological horror film. Which I'm fine with, but it is really slow paced, and I will say this movie does run a bit too long. It could have easily have been shaved down, and for some people they will just hate this movie because of the fact that it is so long. It does feel it feels really long, even longer than what it actually is because it is so slow paced. We find out that pretty much like different members of the cult will like go out into the real world and like or the regular world and bring people back for human sacrifices, like outsiders to be sacrificed, as well as they sacrifice like 2 of their own people at the same time, and they crown somebody like queen of the festival or whatever, and it ends up being the Danny girl by coincidence. But the way she plays into it though, kind of get the idea that she's starting to kind of be won over a little bit by the cult, or at least she kind of starts to merge with them a little bit more as a character. It's kind of an interesting arc, but she's not like into what they're doing or everything. Like you get to this scene where this old couple like commits suicide because once you reach the age of like 70 something in this cold, you gotta like kill yourself, jump off of a cliff. And this other group that's there, like these other 2 people, react realistically. They're like, "What the hell was that? Let's get out of here!" And they kind of get killed like off screen. I think later on one of the cult members is like wearing one of the people's faces or something like Leatherface in a really eerie scene where he like kills this other guy who was like nosing around in like their records and stuff. And that was kind of a cool scene. This film is very well directed. Like the directing here is great. You get like some really cool shots, like where the car is going down the road heading to the commune or whatever, the cult site, and the camera just kind of like flips over the vehicle and looks at it from like a downward angle, and then eventually flips back to normal. That was pretty cool, really cool shot. This director has talent. He is a great director, I think. At least thus far, I think his directing is really good from these 2 films. Whether you love or hate his movies, I think his directing is solid. One problem though is that it's a cult movie. You kind of just like get little things like in there about the cult, like an idea of like how they operate and stuff. But other things like when they kill people, like they make them into like decorative ornaments and stuff. And they put like the last dude to be sacrificed in like a bear skin suit or whatever. It's like a dead bear's body, and it's just kind of felt like a little bit like weirdness for weirdness sake. I know it's probably like meant to be like a pagan thing of like sacrificing animals and shit, but it just kept reminding me of like Nicolas Cage's Wicker Man, where he's running around in a bear suit punching chicks. It just kind of felt like weirdness for weirdness sake a little bit by the director. But one funny scene here is you get like, I think the actor's name is like Will Porter, maybe. I know he was in like the Maze Runner films, the first one. He like pisses on a sacred tree by accident. Everybody starts flipping out. That kind of made me laugh. The main dude who's the boyfriend is like a pretty big douchebag. He's like totally non-understanding of the girl's feelings and just wants to ride her off. Like he doesn't really care about her. One thing though is he eventually like gets drugged and they get him to like have sex with this other girl so they can, I guess, continue the population or whatever. And his Danny, the girl, like catches him doing it, so she's like, oh, he's cheating on me, and it like breaks her even further. And so you get to the end. What I'm trying to get to is you get to the end of the movie where she's like, she has to pick the final sacrifice. Will it be the boyfriend guy or will it be one of their own members? And she picks him, so he gets sacrificed and burned alive while he's drugged because he cheated on her. But at the same time, that doesn't really work to me because I feel like the movie wants you to kind of root for this guy to get killed because he is such a douchebag. But at the end, they have him cheat on her only because he's drugged. So to me, that kind of takes away some of the blame for him. If he's drugged and he doesn't even realize what he's doing hardly, then I don't really see that as really his fault. So that kind of undermines it to me. You get to the end and the dude's pretty much like being burned alive or whatever. The sacrifices are going on and the girl's like screaming in hysteria, and then eventually her like face turns into a smile because she's finally like gave into the madness or whatever, or felt like she's got all this crazy shit out of her system with her family dying and all that, her sister having to commit suicide, her cheating boyfriend and all that. So she's kind of finally starting to feel better. But like I said, every now and then the movie just kind of feels weird for weirdness' sake, like in certain scenes. And I don't feel like you get enough information about the cult. Like at points it feels like it's really trying to be a realistic version of a cult, which is really cool. But other times it feels like it's just like a generic movie cult fantasy thing. One thing I will say, the ending, even though I kind of like the idea of it, like the main girl like going crazy and then finally coming to terms with everything that's happened and all that, and feeling better about her life because it's been such crap. But at the same time, like it focuses in on like the burning building that the people are in because it's like a sacrifice chamber or whatever, or temple that was built specifically to sacrifice people in. And it focuses in on it like burning and everything, and it's a direct homage. Obviously this type of ending isn't shot to the film Wicker Man. This director is obviously like a hardcore Wicker Man fan because like the whole cult in the first movie and the way in Hereditary, and the way it was filmed at the end wasn't really like a standard demon movie. It was like a cult movie, like the Wicker Man, like something you would see in there where where they like want to sacrifice people or they just want to put a demon in somebody, like one of those cult movies. It felt some more like a homage to a film like The Wicker Man and that Hereditary movie too. And here he's kind of doing the same thing here, or at least similar. And when it gets to this ending, he's pretty much directly copying the ending idea of Wicker Man, of people being sacrificed. Like this dude should really just remake Wicker Man. Like he'd do a better job than the Nicolas Cage one, that's for sure. But all in all, this ending right here, because it is kind of unoriginal, it brought the movie down for me of what would have been a solid 3 to just a 2.5. I think this is an all right film. I'd give it 2.5 out of 4. I liked it slightly less than Hereditary, but once again the directing was great. I do like the film. Would I ever watch it again? No, probably not. It's really long, but I don't hate this film. I don't think it's a bad movie at all. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again. Oh, and before I go, I think this director should do something else, kind of break out of this whole cult film, Wicker Man type wheelhouse, and try to see if he can do something else that's different than this, if he wants to continue his career. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.